Senator Ricketts.
Thank you, Senator Capito and General Spellman, Administrator Batt. Great to see you again. Secretary Wiedefeld, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
I want to offer my condolences as well to all Marylanders and especially the families and the loved ones of the 6 workers who lost their lives in this terrible tragedy, and also thank the first responders who acted so quickly to prevent further loss of life and then, of course, responded after the bridge collapse. So we do have a lot of heroes in our communities that respond to these things, and we need to recognize the work they do. And of course, this is maintaining the nation's infrastructure is a key priority for what we do in the federal government, and the bridge in general is something that has been pointed out as a key part of our economy. In fact, talking to a small business owner in Omaha, Nebraska, he was talking about how he was having his product being shipped out through the Port of Baltimore, and obviously the bridge collapse impacted that, and he had to find another way to be able to ship. He was actually exporting his product overseas, so it was, trying to get there was not an easy task. So we know that this is an important thing. It's also important that we make sure that we get the information so that we can share that with the American taxpayers and make sure that this is done correctly. That's part of our job and oversight here. So, Administrator Batt, I'll just start with you just on some of the things that Senator Capito said, just to make sure that you agree with that. So, again, I know this is still early days, so I'm not going to come back and hold you to the penny on this, but do you agree with the estimate? It's about $1.7 billion to replace the bridge?
Yes, Senator, thank you for that. That is what we believe is consistent.
Great. And then we've established, and I think you agree, $350 million in insurance?
Yes, that is the current insurance policy.
Okay, so, and we've also talked about maybe some of the litigation claims. Senator Capito said $350 million. Do you have any sort of estimate on that?
I'd have to defer to DOJ, who is leading the claims. Hard to tell.
Have they said anything about $350 million? Because I think that's what Senator Capito said.
No, I think that was more of a guesstimate.
So I'll just clarify what I said. I just kind of threw that
You
number
just threw that out there? Okay, great.
so I could get to an even $1 billion.
All right, great. Okay, well, okay, good. I'm glad that's a good thing to know. Secretary Wiedefeld, do you have any additional information to share on what the claims could potentially be?
No, sir, no, Senator. But we also obviously we have number of attorneys that we've hired to go after those dollars as well.
All right, so I had a conversation with Governor Moore. I very much appreciate him giving me a call to talk about this, and he really described this as kind of a financing thing that we would get reimbursed. But it sounds like, from what I hear, that maybe at the upper end of Senator Capito is accurate. We're talking about the federal government getting reimbursed for about $700 million, and the federal government would pay for about $1 billion of this under Senator Cardin's plan. Is that accurate? Am I understanding this correctly?
So yes, under the ER law, all funds that are recovered through insurance or legal claims come back, and the Skagit Bridge in Washington, about $20 million, about $17 million of that came back 10 years later. Okay,
great. So also, my understanding is, Secretary Batt, that after the bridge collapsed, and this was after, you designated this as part of the interstate highway system. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, so do you guys have the authority to do this? Is there any precedent for you as designating this after a disaster like this? Because it changes the cost share, right? It would change it from 80% to 90%. Is that accurate?
Yes, Senator, it would. And when I was a secretary in Delaware, I would drive on 695. It's signed as part of the interstate. I think we just all assumed it was part of the interstate. And so that was the first time that I've ever been part of redesignating it post an event. But it, for all intents and purposes, was part of the interstate. It was just related to its initial design exceptions back in the 1970s.
Okay, so but you do think this is the first time that you've done this?
First time, to my knowledge, that we've done it after an event. We redesignate interstate all the time.
So what would happen then to the toll fees? Does that change anything with regard to the toll fees and how Maryland uses it to designate as part of the interstate highway system?
So once they accepted the ER funds, that federalized the facility and would require any tolls to be used under Title 23.
So so help me, for us regular civilians here who don't know what that means. What would that mean going forward for the state of Maryland? Because they've already talked about how they use this to maintain their toll system right now. What will happen going forward now that you've designated this?
So under Title 23, there are, there's a list of things that you must do. The first is maintain the bridge or the toll facility, so those funds can be used. And then after that, there are certain things that are allowable, all related to Title 23 highway expenses within the state.
So it's not going to impact Maryland's ability to be able to use those funds to continue to maintain their toll system. Is that accurate?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. I have other questions, but if we go to the second round, I'd like to get to those. If we don't, we can submit them in writing. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Ricketts. And who is next? Would it be Sheldon Whitehouse?
It would be.
Senator Whitehouse, you're on. Thank